What's going on, Badger Nation? It's Michael here. Welcome to the PPC Den podcast. I'm currently here in the Rocky Mountains, watching a sunset. I'm here for family vacation, but I found some quiet time to come out here and share with you some things about Amazon PPC. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was poking around very low ACOS accounts. Due to the nature of my business, I'm able to sort of scan through thousands of advertising accounts, and I can sort them by ACOS, and I wanted to see what these low ACOS accounts were doing that were different than others. So I found a few different commonalities that these low ACOS accounts were doing. They were habits that were different than I think the way that most people operate. And one of the habits I love to see. It's actually quite surprising because it's so surprisingly simple. It was actually negative keyword management. The accounts, one way or the other, had a lot of negative keywords and negative targets. And I mean a lot of them. Before we go any further, let's do some quick definitions. So the thing that you bid on are, positive keywords, the keywords that you're going after, or the targets you're going after, the positive targets, the things that you're bidding on. For example, if I sell a coffee mug and then I bid on coffee mug exact and coffee mug phrase, that would be two different positive keywords. If I have an auto campaign, that would be another 4 positive targets, the close match, the loose match, the complements, and the substitutes. In this case, those would be positive auto targets. But in everyday vernacular, you might say that there's 6 positive targets or 6 positive keywords. If I had the negative keyword, coffee pot, exact, that would be 1 negative keyword. If I had a negative ASIN for a competitor who's priced better than me, then that would be a negative target. So in this case, you might say, I have 6 positive targets and 2 negative targets. Again, in everyday speech, people interchange keywords and targets pretty regularly. So you might say this account has 6 positive keywords and 2 negative keywords, even though 4 of them were auto targets. Now, in this scenario, the thing that I wanted to point out is that it's worth paying attention to the amount of positives and the amount of negatives into something I call the negative keyword multiple. Basically figuring out how many more negatives are there than positives. So in this example, we had 2 negatives and 6 positives, so 2 over 6 is 0.3, meaning for every 1 positive, there is just 0.3 negatives, or a 0.3x, the amount of negatives than positives. Now, when I poke around these very low ACOS accounts, guess what negative keyword multiples I saw? You think they had 1x, meaning for every positive they had a negative. Maybe 2x. For every positive they have 2 negatives. Friends, I will say that almost every low ACOS account was stacked to the gills with negatives. One account had 41,000 positives and 1.5 million negatives for a whopping 38x negative keyword multiple. That is an intense amount of control for negative keywords and negative targets. And what's the point? What actually happens when you do that? Well, if you had 2 accounts, one with 41,000 positives and 1.5 million negatives for a negative keyword factor of 38 versus one with 41,000 positives and no negatives, and you were to ask me to pick which one has a better ACOS, I'm betting on the one with negatives. And I would continue to bet on the one with negatives if it were a negative keyword multiple of, 0.5 or 1x. But this one had 38 times more negative keywords than positives. And here are some of the ways, some of the activities where they can find that many negatives. So the first thing, of course, any account does is an upper limit search term ceiling. It's simple. Negate a search term if it misbehaves. Straightforward. Over 20 clicks, no orders, turn to negative. What's unique here is, of course, these are AdBadger clients. So what's cool about this is I know that these people have access to a search term upper limit that not everyone has. One thing we did inside AdBadger was we built lifetime search term history to specifically solve a very common problem. There's tons of search terms that get 1 click a month, 2 clicks a month, 3 clicks a month. So if you have a search term that gets 3 clicks a year, 3 clicks a month, over a year, that's 36 clicks. So you'll never find it if you're looking at one search term report with, 30 days or 60 days of history, because that would only be 6 clicks. So having a really long lifetime look back window can really help you find lots of negatives. And then once you find that negative, I noticed that a lot of accounts were using that knowledge and then adding that term everywhere that was applicable. Meaning they might find one negative keyword this way and then add that into every ad group to use and sort of build that universal knowledge, improving every ad group, not just the one that it was triggered in, which I thought was very interesting. The third way, and I know this because I see when they use the tools, is Ngram analysis. This is where you can find common threads and low-click terms. If you're a listener of the show, I've mentioned this many times before. I'll give you an example. If I'm selling coffee mugs, maybe I get a click for coffee mug ceramic, but it only has 1 click. Maybe I get another click for coffee mug ceramic stirrer. It's got 1 click. And then I might find 20 more different terms with the word ceramic in it, all of them never having an order, but they all have 1 click, no orders. Ngram analysis allows me to find where every time the word ceramic shows up, what that pooled level of performance is for every single one of the search terms. And that can really inform my negative keyword management. In fact, we have a free spreadsheet on our site. Just Google Ngram AdBadger and you'll find it. We have a free little spreadsheet, and there's also a section in our tool that allows you to do this. The fourth thing that I noticed was novel negative keyword research. This is where you can use keyword research tools to preempt negatives that haven't been found in your search term report. Meaning, if you're selling coffee mugs, I might go into a keyword research tool, type in the word coffee, and then find new terms that don't apply to what I'm selling. So I sort of type in a generic component of what I'm selling, and then I try to use that information to find new negatives. I might type in kitchenware or gifts for dads or gifts for men or gifts for women and find things that I know are not relevant. I'm just sort of preempting my account to keep those auto campaigns and those broad and those phrases and category targeting all in check. Now, this negative keyword multiple, I highly recommend you check your own number. What's your ratio? Be aware of where you land. Negatives, after viewing this, I've always thought were important, but I actually think they're even more important than they ever were. In fact, I think that as Amazon advertising becomes more complex, it's more easy to focus on the newer things and almost forget about things that we know with 100% certainty work very well. So I would schedule time, at least each month, to build up that list of negatives. Go out there and try to block as many things as you can possibly think of, trimming the fat, stopping fat from ever getting there in the first place. Now, I haven't said this before, but if I were to ballpark a negative keyword multiple that I would recommend for people, I would say at least get a 3 to 5x ratio. And it'll take some time to get there. It can be hard. You might have 5,000 keywords that you're targeting, positive keywords. That would mean you need 15, 25,000 negatives. So I'm curious, what's your negative keyword multiple? What's your ACOS? Go ahead and add more negatives and see how your ACOS evolves. I'm sure you'll be happy to see what happens. Have a good one.